Just kidding. You can definitely hear me. I was just playing some music and being silly. Welcome to the show. Let's see. I'm going to end that music very awkwardly and switch right over to comments. And I'm giving everybody out there the double salute. Welcome to the weekly Spinner Rack. My name? Chris. I'm your host. You can tell because I've got my name right there. Chris. Let's see who we've got here. Hello, Big Gay Dave. Hello, Owen Power. Hello, David Cruces Vargas. Oh, look at this. Steve Sorensen with a super chat. Sounds like I'm going to be able to afford a hot dog for dinner tonight. Great meeting you at New York Comic Con. I only needed to say my name was Steve and you knew it was I. Of course I did. When I posted our photo, many people knew who you were. Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. Let's see. Hello to Arsenoff and hello to, I know this name, Oreo and Jeannie. Sounds like my sibling. Hello, sibling. I'm on your time zone. Hello, A-Man and Monster Sim and Rosstown. I'm not going to be able to say hello to everybody. I'm just sort of quickly banging through some of these lovely people that are here right at the beginning, and I appreciate having you all here. Hopefully I get to answer a question or acknowledge you. So I'm doing this live show obviously a little different than most weeks, and that's because I am visiting New York still, and I am in a hotel. So I don't have my normal setup. I'm not going to be drawing anything. I don't have a second camera or anything. I'm using my Surface. What's this? I met plenty of more creative talent, like the great Jim Mahfood. Yes, Jim is a great, great dude. I got to see him too, so that was awesome. Yep, East Coast. Look at all these great people. Hello, everybody. Love to have you all here. Just so you know, I'll be giving you a little bit of a recap of New York Comic Con from my perspective. I'm going to quickly show you some of the comics that I got this week. I'm not going to do too much in terms of a review, just sort of a recommendation and just sort of going through them real quick. And I've got a lot of news and some pretty big rumors as well, some pretty big ones. The final piece I'll have tonight is a rumor, but I believe it. It's a pretty big one. So this is one that, if you're watching it either live or archived, you're going to want to stay till the end. It's going to be a good one. Hey, how's it going back on the West Coast there, Tim? What up? Here's what I'll do. Let me first just real quick, instead of doing full like mini reviews, I'm just going to show you, these are the comics that I just got this week. These are just like what I picked up this past Wednesday on New Comic Book Day. First of all, actually, I got this one, just to be clear, Human Target 7. I picked this one up at Midtown Comics in Times Square. That's always fun. Strong recommend. Great, great mystery comic. Sort of a noir comic in the superhero world. Got to meet Tom King. Really interesting, nice guy. Great, great book. I strongly recommend that. This is just a replica of Tomb of Dracula #1. Oh, might I be using that for something? For a Comic Tropes episode? Gee, there's a hint. Miracle Man 0 came out. This is an anthology of Miracle Man stories now that Marvel owns it. A little hit and miss. Kind of interesting, just though, to be back and see some new Miracle Man material at like something like 35 years later, somewhere around that. I could have the date a little wrong, but some better than others. But I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham finish their Miracle Man story that they started so long ago. Mandalorian 4, great if you love Mandalorian. Let's see. Spider-Man #1. Dan Slott has written more Spider-Man than anyone else. Mark Bagley has drawn more Spider-Man than anyone else. These guys know how to make a good Spider-Man story. This kicks off a new sort of Spider-Verse story arc with some really big stakes and some twists and turns to who are allies, who are enemies. It's cool. Edge of Spider-Verse, number 5, last of these. Just some interesting characters that will play into that book that I just mentioned. So we'll see. Look at this. Another super chat from Mr. Steve Sorensen. Give our boy Chris a like on this live stream. Yes, well, if you're able to, yes, a like is very, very helpful, and I sincerely appreciate it. There we go. Who's hold on. Somebody's got a good one here. Idea for a comic tropes get-together. Stairwell Con. Yes. Arsnoff knows that I was trapped in a stairwell the last time I went to a Comic-Con. Not this time. Can I recommend Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths? Not really, to be honest. You know what's most frustrating about this? It's very repetitive. We're dealing with like I keep seeing Nightwing and Deathstroke and a couple other characters, and they just keep having these little fights, and it's like, I feel like, what am I missing? Like nothing's moving forward. It's very repetitive. Batman's pretty fun though. That's good. Chip Zdarsky and Phil Jimenez going up against a new enemy, a big robot called Failsafe that's out to kill Batman. All right, cool. This was a nice surprise. Dark Ride, horror comic, deals with an amusement park that is, I would say, more than haunted, more than cursed. I mean, it's pretty demonic, but it's like involves the people that work at a theme park, and there's some dark stuff going on. I kind of like that. Liked it. Yeah. How many scenes has Black Adam yelling at Nightwing in Dark Crisis? Seemingly at least once an issue. I only like good live streams, and that's why I like this one. Thank you, the Beowulf. That's very nice of you. Glad I could catch the stream live. Glad to see New York has treated you well. Thank you, Brooke. That's very nice of you. Hey, look at this. I lost 4 pounds walking around at NYCC. I haven't weighed myself, but I wonder, you know what? That just brings up something interesting. I'm sorry, my nose is itchy. I know I keep rubbing it. It's just so itchy right now. Got to trim this mustache, but most of my trimming stuff is back home. I didn't know that I presented as quite such a big guy online, but both Tom King and Bill Sienkiewicz told me that I was much slimmer looking and better looking in person. And I was like, thank you. Let's see. Did I get the con cred? Well, I sure hope not, Andrew Jefferson. I can't lie and say that I was always wearing my mask. I wore it a lot, but I will say, and this is part of what I'm going to tell you about New York Comic Con, they did not enforce a mask. Even though they've got signs everywhere, it wasn't enforced at all. Pretty much nobody wore a mask. I'll be honest, less than 10%, I'm going to say. It's weird. Hopefully I'm okay. I tried to be safe. I really did. No, the last cover was not embossed. Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning feels very authentic if you liked the original 80s, 90s Ninja Turtles. So that's what I can say for that. Yeah, I've got some news about this too, but thank you for the super chat, Magic A. Thank you for the super chat. Getting better at saying that fast, right? I heard Peach Momoko was overwhelmed in New York Comic Con. Some fans just don't choose to be good behavior as they should. That apparently is a concern, and when I get to the news, I'll mention it. And then I picked up 3 issues of Nice House on the Lake because I just read the trade paperback. These are the next 3 issues after that. It's a horror comic that I really like. Let's talk about the convention. Oh, you know what? Before I even get to the convention, there was a new thing that came out on Disney Plus this week that I thought was pretty fantastic. Werewolf by Night. Music and direction by Michael Giacchino. First thing he's directed. Great composer. I think we've all heard his music in various films and TV shows, even if you don't know it. He's very prolific. But he apparently has always wanted to direct. This is the first thing he's directed, And that's interesting, Jeannie. I don't know if it's the delay or if you're joking with me, but yeah, I did watch it. I loved it. I loved it. This was one of the best Marvel things I've seen in a while. Although personally, just to be clear, I have also been enjoying She-Hulk quite a bit. But no, Werewolf by Night was awesome. It was only about an hour. I wish it was twice that. Shane, so nice to see you. Shane is the owner of the local comic shop that I go to, Atomic Comics in Tacoma. So happy to give Shane a plug. He, by the way, has a live show on Facebook on the Atomic Comics page on Facebook every Tuesday evening, a live claim sale where you can like get key issues and variant covers and stuff. It's pretty great and entertaining show if you ever want to like sort of and they'll mail stuff. So like it doesn't matter where you are. I recommend that. Atomic Comics in Atomic Comics in Tacoma, if you want to look for that on Facebook and get notified about the Tuesday night show. Oh, look who's here. Andy, always lovely to have you here. Werewolf by Night was big fun. Should have been longer. But you know what? Isn't it always good to leave the audience wanting more? It gave me a full story. I thought it was a blast. It moved at a great pace. And yeah, I thought that Jack Russell was interesting. I loved Elsa Bloodstone. The other, supporting characters were great. I'm not going to spoil things. There are a couple other sort of monsters in it. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. Was the Werewolf by Night comic good? It is, yeah. Was it Tomb of Dracula good? I don't think we could say that. I think that the best horror comic Marvel was doing in the 70s was Tomb of Dracula. And almost all of that was written by Marv Wolfman. The artwork by Gene Colan, perfect for it. And that was a great title for Gene Colan because he had a very just an illustrative style that was just perfectly suited for dark and moody pieces. Other like horror things that they had, they had like Man-Thing, I guess you could argue was horror. Marvel did do a bunch of black and white horror magazines, and those were decent. Tales of the Zombie. That's a pretty good one. But yeah, Mandela Butterfly, speaking about the Werewolf by Night, it was a special, so an hour is okay. I agree. You know what? If they want to do specials, hire good actors, have a good budget, have a good idea, and just get in with the good idea and get out, fine. But I will say, I would love to see more of Werewolf by Night show up in some sort of Marvel thing. I would love to see more of Elsa Bloodstone. So if they want to put them in, Moon Knight season 2, if they want to put them in the Blade movie, if they want to put them in Doctor Strange 3, doesn't matter to me. I'd love to see more of it. Weird and cool. Yeah, the nice thing about the Werewolf by Night comic was Mike Ploog art. So if you like Mike Ploog, very interesting artist, also did some stuff on like, Ghost Rider and Man-Thing and stuff like that. Yeah. And I agree with you, Evan. It was kind of different than everything else Marvel does, but it was well executed. It was really nice. Like all the little details that they put in terms of, it's in black and white, and it felt very reminiscent of, well, maybe not reminiscent, but at least it paid homage to the classic Universal horror monster movies of like the 30s and 40s. So I like that a lot. And music was incredible. Why would it not be? If a composer is directing it, like he doesn't need to like speak to someone else and say like, I want it to like, rise here and fall there. Like he knows how to pace that perfectly. So the music is incredible. And then there were little details like they put scratches and nicks on like the film, like add some film grain. And you'd even have cigarette burns like pop up when it was time for a reel change, which was something I was actually thinking about fairly recently. I was just like, oh yeah, at a certain point, movies went digital and those cigarette burns like disappeared. And most people probably don't know what I'm talking about, but it was like this little like mark that was like a good indication for the reel projector that it was time to switch to the other reel. It's funny. Yeah, there you go. Mike Plug uploads stuff on Facebook, including his concept art for Bakshi. All right. Yeah, Midnight Suns movie. Like, now we've got some supernatural characters, so maybe. I hope you can make an episode about Marvel monsters and Marvel horror. Might be working on something like that. That sounds interesting. Werewolf by Night had a flaming tuba. 10 out of 10. Totally. Was it a tuba or was it like more like bagpipes? I think it was a tuba. You're right. Yeah, it was good. Let me show you what I got at the convention. Which isn't a whole lot, but I got a few nice things. Actually, I got that. These. Okay. What did I get? I picked up from Kyle Higgins Radiant Black 18. Well, so what? Everybody could get Radiant Black 18. But this is a special edition. Very, very limited print run. And it's something unique because Radiant Black 18 had a unique way of telling the story. It takes place across several different points in time over one person's life. So what happens is this version, instead of going page to page, it spreads out like an accordion. I don't have enough space to show you here. Let me just assure you, it's a really unique, wonderful way to read this particular comic, this accordion style. It's just cool. Very unique printing to get this right. And so I was happy to get that. And Kyle was a big sweetie pie. I was glad to be able to see Kyle and catch up. And we might have talked about an idea or two for collaborating on something. We will see what happens there. I got to meet a guy that is also really, really nice to me, an artist named Isaac Goodhart. And he's done some really cool comics like Postal and some young adult stuff at DC, quite a bit of young adult stuff, including this. He gave me his latest issue of Constantine. Isaac's a great artist. I'm not just saying that because he's nice. There's plenty of people that are nice to me. Everybody is. It's really good. It's a really interesting book. He's done a lot of there's something specific I want to show you that I was impressed by, if I can find it while I flip through. Yeah, just this establishing shot here with like really good 3-point perspective and depth of field here with like some characters down here, and then like some really great innovative like panel structure that like still flows very well. No wasted panels. If you there's a young adult book that Isaac illustrated for DC called Victor and Nora, about Mr. Freeze in his young days being a scientist and falling in love with his wife. And he drew me into that as a scientist. You know what else he did that was really nice? He had his little poodle, Lily, with him. And when I walked up, he just handed Lily over to me. I'd never met Lily before. She was sweet. She just nuzzled right up to me. And some of you know, my cat passed away just a few days ago. And so Chrissy and I are definitely hurting over that. And to just be handed a really affectionate puppy dog like me, it was really, really nice. It was, and he didn't know what had happened or anything. He was just like, here, take my dog. And it happened so fast. It was actually a really, really nice moment that stands out in the convention. It was an overwhelming convention. Also picked up at the convention, Fist of the North Star on discount at Midtown Comics. I've always heard good things about this, and I walked the convention floor with my pal, who's a professional artist, Mark Engler. He was visiting from Poland, and just great spending the time with him. And Mark's like, oh yeah, Fist of the North Star is worth it. Thank you, Andy. Thank you so much. A lot of people, Chrissy, saying nice things about Little Bean. Chrissy's here in the hotel, but she's just sort of doing her own thing while I do the show. Yeah, Cheesier says, had a great time in New York Comic Con. Wish I could have run into you, but didn't see you. You know what? Yeah. So I didn't think to organize a meet and greet. Chrissy just pointed out she did suggest it. I didn't think that I had enough of a following. It would like maybe be embarrassing, like only like 2 people would show up if I did something like that. I really thought that. And I wasn't trying to be like extra modest. That's what I thought, okay? But now, having gone to the convention, I couldn't tell you how many people greeted me. Oh, here's Mark. I'm at the airport. Mark, thank you so much for helping me have a fantastic experience at New York Comic Con. I had a great time spending the day with you and catching up. It was really wonderful. Thank you for spending some time with me today, going to like, the zoo and the Ghostbusters firehouse and stuff like that. Thank you. Mark was here because he just had a new print come out from Bottleneck Gallery. It's a great Disney triptych that has Moana, Lilo and Stitch, and Luca all represented. His work is beautiful. Chris was getting stopped every 10 minutes. I thought I'd get stopped a few times. I didn't think I'd get stopped as much as I did. So I see that, like getting stopped. And I also saw that Sal from Comic Pop, I got to meet up with him, and Sal's a wonderful person that I've talked to online, but it was nice to meet him in person. And he smartly had a signing piece of time, like at the Kubert School. Like they had the Comic Pop cast do a meet and greet there, and there was a line. Like I went to see him, and there was too big a line. I was like, oh, I'm not going to interrupt that. Like there was a big line, and I was like, okay, there's probably an audience for it. Forget the modesty. If I ever do something like this again, I will try to plan something I didn't know. I would love. It meant a lot to me when everybody was brave enough to say hello to, essentially a stranger. Like I don't know them anyway. It meant a lot. Like everybody was kind to me. Everybody was wonderful. We talked a little bit about like what they were there for, what they like for comics, things like that. I would try to learn as much as I could in that brief moment. And I just want to say it meant a lot to me. And I guess I understand and I'm flattered, but I get it. Like I would do a meet and greet next time. Thank you for the super chat. Love from Mexico. Gracias. Gracias, amigo. Anyway, what else did I get at the comic convention? Mark recommended this one, Silver Surfer Black, and I've always heard good things about Trad Moore. I've seen plenty of his art, and it looks interesting. But yeah, so I got this. It looks like a really cool, surreal book, perfect for this character. I got... Oh, this was given to me by a really nice guy that watches my show and had a booth, Devin. Devin made this comic called Neverender. I haven't had time to read it yet. And I also got to do a pin swap. I gave him a comic Tropes pin, and I got this really nice Gojira pin. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, so I got that. And if you want to look that up, I don't know, on the back it says Pin Stash XDK. And his name is, well, he doesn't have his name on there. But anyway, Devin, I appreciate it a lot. Silver Surfer Black Rules, says Dr. Shoebill. Noted. I can't wait to read it. Oh, and I got 2 things from Tom King, who is very nice. I got these 2 things signed by him. So that was nice. And then I had a great time. I saw everybody at the convention in terms of like people that had a table that I wanted to see, with one exception. I didn't see Bill Sienkiewicz. I'm a huge fan of Bill Sienkiewicz, if I haven't made that clear before. Really love his work. God, I think he's one of the more unique voices in comics, and he's been around for a while, And I just think he's a gentleman. He's just a class act. He's just so creative. Some of the first stuff I read in comics was New Mutants, and it was New Mutants by Bill Sienkiewicz. But then you get like Elektra Assassin, and I find Stray Toasters. Anyway, he has illustrated the cover and a prologue for this book called Alliance's Orphans, which the prologue was written by Stan Lee. This just came out, and he was doing a signing at Forbidden Planet. So I got to meet Ryan Silbert, the writer of the rest of the story, and Bill Sienkiewicz. Hold on, there's some super chats I want to acknowledge. John Dorsey says, but to us, you don't seem like a stranger. I know, I get that now. You're Chris, and your content and personhood have made our comic reading lives richer and better. That's so kind of you. That's so kind. Makes my heart feel good. And Andrew Jefferson says, Godzilla versus Smog Monster, best or worst film? Towards the worst, but interesting in its own way. I love Godzilla. Even bad Godzilla, to me, is good Godzilla. But Bill wasn't at his table a lot, so I went to the signing today, got to meet him, and he knew who I was. And while I was getting this book signed, another person that watches my show came and was like, I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but like, Chris, I really like your show. I was like, I was expecting him to say hi to Bill Sienkiewicz. He was like, I like you too, Bill, but Chris, I like you because of this. Anyway, Ilan, thank you. That made me feel great. That was the guy that interrupted. So anyway, this is an interesting book. Dynamite put this out. An idea that Stan Lee had before he passed, and being written and created by some other creators, but prologue also by Bill Sienkiewicz. Looks interesting. Can't wait to check that out. I also picked up two last things at Forbidden Planet. Scott Snyder and Francesco Francovilla's Night of the Ghoul. I heard good things. And then the latest issue of My Hero Academia, which is a manga that I just really enjoy. Speaking of New Mutants, this reminds me of New Mutants a bit. Bill Sienkiewicz is one of my favorite all-time comic artists. He's really, really amazing. There were two signings going on today at the same time at two different places. Bill was doing a signing at Forbidden Planet, and Midtown Comics, specifically, I believe their which one is it? Not their Midtown location, not their Times Square location. The one at the big train station. I forget what it's called. But Midtown had Peach Momoko. Boy, Peach Momoko is so popular. Tell you what. Oh, there's one other thing that I got. There was a gachapon machine on the show floor. Bandai had a gachapon machine. I got one. This was a kit to make this Chibi Gundam. And it's a really intricate model. All of this is lots of little pieces. For instance, these yellow pieces on the chest, those are unique. And it's not just stacking the chest on top of the waist. They're all lots of little pieces. Really, really cool. So that was kind of fun. Chrissy and I got to build that together. Let me tell you a little bit about the convention before I get into the news. First of all, I had a great time. New York Comic Con was a great convention. It really was. But was it what it used to be before the pandemic? No. Very, very different still. Very, very different. Artist Alley, still about the same size. Lots of great talent there. Some of the people I mentioned, Bill Sienkiewicz and Peach Momoko, Scott Snyder, Todd McFarlane, Greg Capullo, big names, right? Big names, and lots of up and comers too, and lots of artists, Jock and Cully Hamner and Dave Johnson, great people. Let me acknowledge this super chat real quick, and maybe if you slip a little cash, you'll reconsider the cinematic genius that is Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. Don't you mean, isn't that Godzilla versus Hedorah? Smog Monster. Aren't we comic book fans and nerds and stuff like that? I think we all know that the Smog Monster is Hedorah. Let's get our fandoms right. So Artist Alley was great. And they also had a good size area with lots of celebrities, like Brendan Fraser and stuff like that. And that's cool. That's cool. I didn't go there because I'll be honest, I don't really care about getting a signature from people that have been in The Walking Dead or something like that. I respect them. Some of them are great actors. It's just that's not why I'm going to the comic convention. But the main show floor, that was different. At first it looks the same. Lots of big signs and amazing cosplay. First of all, no shortage of great cosplay. I'm going to edit together for you all a video. I took a lot of video at the convention. You'll get to see it. But what was it lacking? It was lacking two things: representation from publishers and big comic book stores, like actual comics to buy. It was lacking in both of those. I only saw two big publishers there, Marvel and IDW. And Marvel, to be honest, their booth was more about promoting everything except the comic, because it was talking about their video games and their movies and stuff like that. They didn't have a lot about the comics themselves. IDW had a nice big Godzilla standee that went so high in the sky. It was great. But yeah, there's no Dark Horse, there's no Image, there's no DC. I don't think I saw anybody like Boom or Dynamite. That's lacking. And then for comic dealers, it's was Midtown Comics there with some good deals on trades? Yeah. Were there many big dealers with lots and lots of back issues? Not many. Not that many. Here's a super chat. Steve, you're so generous. Great time meeting you at New York Comic Con. Oh, wait. I already saw that one. Did it just pop up again? Well, anyway, yes. I loved seeing you, man. I loved seeing you. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yes. Okay. Source Point Press and Mad Cave Studios had booths. Good. So there was a little bit of indie representation, and I like that. But do you understand? There's a lot that weren't there. Image, Dark Horse, and DC. Those are some big publishers for showing up at a comic convention, and they usually have some announcements and stuff. They had some of that in panels. Okay, there's a few people here pointing out that I missed some stuff. I think Boom did have a booth. If they did, I feel bad because I think I missed that. Vault Comics were in the back. Yeah, they should have been more towards the front. Metropolis Comics had a booth. That's a comic store, right? Metropolis Comics. There was First, Second, Scout, Source Point, and quite a few small press. I'm glad that the small press was there. I am. I did see a couple. I saw Aftershock, and I did see Vault. I'm sorry that I forgot to mention it earlier. So it's just that some of that was lacking, and what they had instead was, I saw a fudge booth, a humongous booth selling fudge. Well, cool. Who doesn't like fudge? But what's it doing there? I saw two different places that had backpacks, and I'm not really talking about a Captain America backpack or some of those things that have the license. I forget what they're called, but they've got the licenses for Star Wars and Disney and stuff like that, the smaller backpacks. No, I'm just talking backpacks. I'm okay, clearly they needed to fill the space out. You know what I mean? So it was lacking in some of that. And there was even honestly, aisle space wise, there was space here and there. Thank you so much, Larry. That's really generous of you. And Larry says, hey, Chris, I actually met Brendan Fraser just to give him one of my band's albums because we're obsessed with Airheads. Airheads was fun. He was super nice. I couldn't make it Saturday, so I hope to meet you next time. That would be lovely. And like I say, I have nothing against those celebrities being there. It's just not why I personally am there. But they did have, a good amount of those guests. Although, it looks like a lot of the photo ops, I get why, but they're with the plexiglass divider. And I look at it and I'm I could literally Photoshop myself meeting, any of those actors. And it would not be hard because there's a really clear line. Andy's having fun here. Did the fudge have any superpowers? Yeah, it could give you super diarrhea super fast. Anyway, yeah, I don't totally disagree with you, Samuel. Even with the space, the showroom was extremely crowded. It got crowded, but it took a while to get there. If I'm comparing it to before the pandemic, like I was there on Saturday, and I didn't get there like right when it opened. I got there within the first hour, and it was pretty empty in a bunch of places, and I was stunned because I'd never seen anything like that. Yo, 21S Mac. You the man, Chris. I'll try to be. Oh, geez. People still taunting me over this. Yes, Victor, thank you. I heard that the old gum had a booth at the con as well. Well, I kept them in business, didn't I? Let's get into the news. Normally I take about this long to do, sort of like mini reviews and stuff, but instead I just wanted to point out some of the things that I got, and we'll still talk about a bunch of the news. And the New York Comic Con will come back up in some of this news. And like I say, I have some pretty big, well, it's a rumor, but I have a pretty big one at the end. Tari, it was great. Thank you so much for asking. That's nice. What was the last show you attended that was 100% comics? Probably SPX, Small Press Expo. And I'm not saying it needs to be 100% comics at all. I'm interested in comics related merchandise. So I'll get, say, a Hot Toys figure or a Donatello figure or a new hoodie or a G.I. Joe shirt. I like that stuff. I do. But sometimes stuff is this has nothing to do with comics, it's weird when it's there, I get why they'd have a massage table in previous years. I get that, but it has nothing to do with comics. I'd rather have maybe a self-published comics guy have that table. But let's talk about the Harvey Awards. The Harvey Awards used to take place at Baltimore Comic-Con for many, many years. And I don't know how this happened, but New York Comic Con basically got them. And now the Harvey Awards are given out at New York Comic Con. And those are pretty prestigious awards. I know everybody knows the Eisners, but the Harveys are, definitely very, very respectful. Let's talk about who won. First of all, Hall of Fame inductees this year included Neil Gaiman, Roy Thomas, Gilbert Shelton. If you don't know him, that's the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. Really cool underground comic. And Marge Buell. If you don't know Marge, she created Little Lulu. So 4 really cool places. Let's see. Felt New York Comic Con was about 25 to 35% comics. Call me crazy. Jeez. If we count Artist Alley, because I think Artist Alley, you could argue, is almost all comics, even though some of it's prints. It's comic book related prints. If we counted Artist Alley, maybe closer to 50%. But anyway, there's a lot of other stuff is all I can say. At least this year in particular, there was. Book of the Year, The Good Asian by Pornsak Pishitshot and Alexander Tefenki. I talked that book up every week when I did reviews of it on this, so it's cool to see that win. Digital Book of the Year. I don't think this will surprise any of you that pay attention to digital comics at all. Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe won that, and I get it. It's a good book. Best children's or young adult book. Can't say I know really any of these. I'm a little in the dark there. Squire by Nadia Shamus and Sarah Alfagi. Don't know. Yep. Mandela Butterfly is singing the song that Alan Moore loves to sing so well. Little Lulu, I love you, Lou, just the same. Little Lulu, I love you, Lou, just the same. I tried to meet Jay Lee to get a Dark Tower comic signed, but missed him by an hour. I'm sorry, Larry. Best manga. This one surprised me. Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto. It's a pretty fun book. It really is. I get it. It's a good looking. It's a crazy bonkers concept. It feels new and different. So I get it. I just was a little surprised because it still feels kind of new, and sometimes it takes, I think, manga a little while to get recognized, and like they just sort of go after whatever has the biggest sales, maybe. But I did actually see several Chainsaw Man cosplays, and some of them were quite good. Not just the head that's the chainsaw. Some of them like had their arms too. It was impressive. When did Monsters come out? That was definitely last year. It made it to my best of the year last year. It was a great book. Best international book. This interested me. It was Sweet Paprika by Mirka Adolfo, and that came out through Image Comics. So interesting to see Image make their way into some more international comic stuff, make some inroads there. Will you have Ryan Audley on the channel? I could. I did get to spend some time talking with him, and it was really fun. It was nice to catch up with Ryan. I think he's creating some beautiful work on Hulk, and I think you guys will be very excited to see the stuff that he's doing for Battle Beast with Kirkman. They work really well together. And the last Harvey Award thing was Best Adaptation from a comic book or graphic novel. Best Adaptation, you think maybe The Batman, right? No. What won was Miss Marvel on Disney+. Miss Marvel was what got the most votes. I liked it a lot, so more power to Miss Marvel. It was a good adaptation, but that's what won the award. Let's see. The next piece of news I have is like a downer, so I'm just trying to see if I can like sort of segue into it by like answering a question or two first. Have you mentioned the G.I. Joe rumor yet? Not yet. Towards the end of the night, I might have something G.I. Joe related. My friend cannot stop pushing Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man is really fun. MM was a lot of fun. Miracle Man? Or actual M&Ms? Like, I love these M&Ms. This candy is going to take off. Nobody knows about it. It's really obscure. They should open a store right in Times Square. Really prominent M&Ms. Compete with those Reese's bastards. I got 5 minutes into Miss Marvel and decided to move on to She-Hulk, but I don't like teenage protagonists much. Fair enough. For me, I think I love Kamala Khan. I think that Marvel every 10 years ends up coming up with a teenage hero that's like a good-hearted person that has personal problems, and it's always like relevant to that specific era. So, like 60s was Spider-Man, 70s was Nova, Richard Rider. Don't know off the top of my head who would slot into the 80s, but by the 90s, we'd have like, Ultimate Spider-Man. By the 10s, we had Miles Morales. By the 20s, we've got Kamala Khan. And I think that they all fit that mold, and it's something that like Marvel always does pretty darn well. Did I see a lot of no-face cosplay this year? No, I guess I couldn't say that I did. I got punked by who? Who punked me? I missed it. Kitty Pryde 80s? Maybe. I guess I sort of think of somebody being like pretty darn prominent, like with their own title, but that might fit. Yeah. Kitty Pryde was either that or like, all of the New Mutants or something like that. But yeah. I'm on my fall break today and tomorrow, and I've been catching up, I think, on my polls. School and work has me 2 to 3 weeks behind on reading. Oh, good. Good luck catching up. Did you see any cool sketches in Artist Alley? Oh my God, yes. Some of the, I was looking at some of the stuff being drawn by Peach Momoko, Brian. Wait, no, hold on. I totally just blanked on the name because I started to say somebody else's name that was not there. Dave Johnson, but I love his work. Ryan Otley. Jim Zub is known as a writer, but he can draw, and he was doing a really cool Rick and Morty cover when I went by. I saw so much great art. Tell you what, let's talk about some tough news, and then I'll move past it with something kind of funny to cleanse the palate. This is sad. Some of you will know what I'm going to talk about because what else is sad lately. But here's a great artist. I'd call him a master. Kim Jung Gi. Kim Jung Gi, South Korean artist, a talent unlike anybody else, in that he didn't just draw, beautiful images, great detail, really lush brush strokes and stuff. He drew fast. He drew from memory, complex machinery and architecture, no sketching needed. He could just illustrate it. Curvilinear perspective. He could do all these things from his head. I would argue there's never been anybody quite like Kim Jung Gi, and there probably isn't likely to be in our lifetime because he's just such a unique talent. And he passed away. He passed away coming to New York Comic Con. He was in the airport in Paris, making his way here, and he was 47, which I think is pretty young, and he had a heart attack. I'm going to tilt this so that you're not in the shot, and so you can do your own thing. But I love Kim Jung Gi, loved his work. In terms of art, he's done lots of classes, lots of teaching artists, lots of streaming, lots of murals, lots of sketchbooks, or really I'd call them art books because they're big, thick things, and I have some of those. I love them. There's a lot you can learn from Kim Jung Gi still, because there's a lot of his lessons archived, thank God. In comics, he didn't necessarily do a lot of comics specifically, but he did go to comic conventions. But 2014, he did a book called Spy Games with a European publisher. He did some variant covers for things like Civil War II. He did a variant cover very recently for Robert Kirkman's book Firepower. And I had the pleasure of meeting him several times, and even got some original art by him, and it meant a lot. He's one of my favorites, to be honest. He really is. And I was really looking forward to seeing him again because it's been a couple of years since I'd seen him. And heart attack. Not something that any of us are really expecting. I don't think. How could you be? And all I can say that's nice about it is that his table, New York Comic Con wasn't like Mercenary. They didn't just sell it or shutter it or anything. So his table was still there, filled with flowers and artwork and beautiful messages. So that was really, really nice. That was really, really nice. And I wrote a message. The video will be in that big Comic-Con video that I'm still editing. I show his table. Andy says, I met Master Jung Gi at a show in Phoenix a few years back. Amazing artist. Watching him do straight to ink sketches in people's books was a mind blower. Rest in peace. Yeah, like I say, I've gotten some of those sketches before. I'm privileged. And to watch him work like that was really amazing. Even watching it on video, folks, is something just amazing. Seeing him draw motorcycles that look very accurate and very deep and detailed from memory with no pre-planning or sketching and stuff. And then on top of that, to add the curved perspectives and stuff. He had a mind unlike any other. Amazing how he can think like that. He worked in a very different way than most artists. That's all I can say, is because most of us, no matter how good or bad we are, we can't keep that all in our head. We need to do pre-planning for perspective grids or, just proportions and stuff like that. He not only could do it, he'd do it in ink. So brave, so brave. I joined late. I hope you and the missus had a good convention. We've had a great trip to New York, right, Chrissy? Yeah. We've done some really nice things. I only did the convention for the one day, for Saturday. I met my best friend from college. I hung out with really good friends like Mark Englert. We went to Korean barbecue. Chrissy and I did. If you want a great restaurant, not just for really good quality food, but in my opinion, exceptional service, exceptional. Gogoi, Gogi, Gogi 37 in New York. Gogi 37, Korean barbecue. Food was delicious. Service was incredible. Very, very nice. Very good experience. Went to the zoo today. Went to see the Ghostbusters house. Went to see like the I don't know. Chrissy and I went to a sculpture store, like for tools. We went to some art supply stores the other day. Went through FAO Schwartz. Went through NBC Studios. All sorts of interesting stuff. This is good advice here. Watch your hypertension and cholesterol levels, folks, especially as you enter your 40s. Unmanaged, those could be precursors for heart attacks. Can't hurt to hear it. Can't hurt to hear it. Can't hurt to hear it. Andrew says, I've read stories of Kirby free drawing elaborate scenes with no sketching or planning. And he did draw some good stuff. But he also did it like very fantastical. Whereas when Kim Jung Gi wanted to, he could draw very realistic cars, motorcycles, buildings, houses, streets. Just incredible. Did they let me slide down the pole? No, it's a working fire department, just to be clear. It's a working fire department, but they have done it up to look like it should. It's not under construction or anything. It's a working fire department, but they do have like, the working pole and stuff like that. Yeah. I've got bots. Oh, I'll get them. Blocked.
Yeah.
Did I go to St. Mark's? I didn't. They did have a presence at New York Comic Con, by the way, and that was nice. I've been there before. I do like their store. I would say some of the stores that I like in New York, and I'm not an expert, but I've visited here a lot over the years. I like Midtown Comics. I like Forbidden Planet. And then for more like sort of the back issues, I do like stuff like St. Mark's and darn it, there's one other that JHU. It's changed, but it's still pretty good. Yeah. Anyway, so that's tough news. But now I've got like let's buffer that with some funny news. Okay, it's not just like to make light of it, but I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna talk about a real dum-dum. How many of you know the actor Mark Buffer? Wait a minute, what? Can I turn the thermostat up?
I'm freezing.
Yep. Apparently I have work to do. It's at 70. All right, I moved it up from 70.
Thank you.
I had work to do. I'm a good partner. I didn't know this. Hold on. Oh, darn it. I lost my place. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not you. It's me. JLS Comics. Lovely to have you here, by the way. It's amazing that Kim Jung Gi was a Guinness World Record holder. I did not know that. And Samuel Esme says, have I visited Desert Island Comics? No, I don't know that one. It's one of the most unique comic shops out there and selling a ton of indie, underground, and foreign material. Love stores like that. Oh, Japantown? Sorry, there's a St. Mark's Comics, so I didn't know that. No, not this visit. Not this visit. If I said Mark Buffer, I said it wrong. The guy's name is Ray Buffer, okay? Ray Buffer. Who's he? Well, he's an actor. I don't know that you'd necessarily recognize him, if I'm being honest. I think he gets a lot of the roles like that are just sort of they're more than extras, but they're not really like speaking roles for the most part. He's been on things like Curb Your Enthusiasm as a stage manager. He's been on ER as a security guard. I guess he was uncredited, but in Bullet Train as a Russian thug. He was in the old Hulk and Daredevil movies. But anyway, whatever. he was caught on camera this past week stealing $600 worth of comic books from the LA comic book store Metropolis Comics. They have him on camera. They posted that without naming him, but they just like posted an image of who was stealing from them, and warned some of the other local stores in the area to be on the lookout for somebody that's stealing. But people know who he was because he's been in stuff. He's a working actor. And he promptly has deleted all of his social media accounts. Talk about a way to potentially tank your career. Be recognizable and then steal $600 worth of comics on camera. Your best role yet, buddy. Who knows? In LA, maybe that'll get him another job, because it's $600, not like $6,000 or $60,000. Yeah, I guess Curb Your Enthusiasm didn't pay that much. Probably not. $600 in comics could be a bunch of comics or just one. What did he take? I couldn't tell from the video. I couldn't tell. They said $600 worth. $600 worth. That guy must have short arms and deep pockets. He was method stealing. Super laugh hard. That's a good one. He was method stealing. I need to get into my next role is a thief on Walker, Texas Ranger, and I need to get in the mindset. It was research for a new movie, research for a role. He pulled a Winona, but he's not at Winona level of famous. Evan C. Oh no, I hate to hear that. Evan C. says that because of this news that I just broke, he's going to rip the Ray Buffer poster off of his wall. Oh no. Oh, that's a heartbreaker. He stole a complete set of Neil Adams X-Men, maybe. He was also caught stealing on camera here in San Diego at SoCal Comics. Is that true? You're saying that like it's true. Like that doesn't sound like a joke. Pretty good. Pretty good. Tari says, Ray deleted all his social media. There was another store that also recognized him and responded to the post of Ray stealing. Damn. What are you doing, dude? What are you doing? It's like, if you're going to steal, maybe steal more than $600 worth. I don't even, get yourself set up. Oh, okay. Bleeding Cool. They always get everything right. No, I'm just giving them a hard time. Bleeding Cool says it was a stack of Golden Age comics. I'm not a crook, but I play one on TV. Well, for Ray Buffer, apparently he does both. Apparently he does both. Anyway, just seemed like sort of amusing news because it's like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? You're not anonymous enough to get away with that. He saw my Golden Age videos and wanted to get in on that gold mine. Exactly. If you have like a Nightmare and Spooky book, who needs to be in Bullet Train? He was stealing Dynamite Thor? Maybe. Nobody loves Raymond anymore. Nobody loves Raymond. His old gang pulled him back in for one last job. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Anyway, I'll move on to some more serious news. I don't have any more depressing news. I'll just move on to another piece of news. Oh my God, you're probably right about this. Watch Law and Order make an episode on this. Does kind of sound like a Law and Order thing, but you have to figure out a way to work a murder in there. Maybe like he brought the comics home and like his roommate murdered him for the comics and they have to track it back. Hey, why is this guy stealing comics? That's not very comical. I swear the Law and Order police are the most jaded people in the world. And maybe that makes sense because they encounter, a dead body every week. I don't know how many dead bodies a week a homicide detective encounters. To be fair, maybe that's accurate, but they always make a joke. They see a dead body and they make a pun based on it. He was murdered in front of the Central Park Library. Looks like his card didn't check out. Or, what? You guys have no compassion for living human beings. Anyway, but I'm going to move on. There's more news, and you deserve it. This one's also about New York Comic Con. There was an article on a website called ArtNet, which does all sorts of articles about different types of art, as you might have guessed from the title. This was by journalist Sarah Cascone. Might be getting her name right. Sarah Cascone. She went to the Comic-Con and spoke specifically with all the dealers there to get the pulse of how are sales going. Are we back to pre-pandemic, or are we at the highs, the middle pandemic? Because comics got very popular during the pandemic, especially back issues and stuff like that. High-end sales are still very brisk, according to a lot of the different dealers. They're still selling a lot of high first of all, if any sort of movie gets announced, yes, the first appearance of those characters, boom, takes off. Always has. But listen to some of these high-end issues that people brought to New York Comic Con to sell. Among the items selling for more than six figures, there was the auction house known as Golden. That's Goldin. They brought a Pokemon Illustrator card, which I have to admit, I don't really know what that is, but I guess it's valuable because they sold it at the Comic-Con for $480,000. $480,000 for one Pokemon card. Wow, did I choose the wrong career path, apparently. But anyway, there's a store called High Grade Comics. They brought a copy of Batman #1, graded as a 1.8. I sort of got that out. Selling for $260,000. And also mentioned was Absolute Comics, had a copy of Amazing Fantasy #15, no mention on the grade, selling for $150,000. So probably a very low grade, but still, those are three items selling for 6 digits. That's a lot of money changing hands at the Comic-Con. Yeah, people are just realizing the stuff about the a Pokemon card. $480,000 for a Pokemon card. Was that the same card that YouTuber turned into a necklace? No, apparently this one's more valuable, I think. For a grade 1.8. A 1.8 does not have to be that bad. 1.8 can be it looks like a garbage truck ran over it and it got stuck to the wheel. Or a 1.8 could have one serious issue and the rest of it is in really good shape. It doesn't all have to be reader copies. There can be very specific things that can bring a grade down, like a tear or a bad fold or something like that. But everything else can be good. So sometimes there are certain low grade copies for books that are so old that I think it would be a privilege to sort of have that in your collection. If I could afford, if I could find Action Comics #1 at a 1.8, well, I still wouldn't be able to afford it, but I would, if I was rich enough, I would definitely consider it, to be honest. I would consider it. Tim, did the Pokemon card turn out to be a bunch of G.I. Joe cards? Yeah, who did that happen to? One of the Paul brothers, right? I forget which one collects them, whether it's Logan or the other one. I'm not an expert on those guys. Hopefully no one turns it into an NFT. You wouldn't have the legal right to, so probably not. I'd say, yeah, let's see. I'd take a 1.8 Amazing Fantasy 15. I'm not that picky. Yeah, it would be pretty cool just to say that you did have it. I wonder if any of my Garbage Pail Kids are worth anything. They're probably worth something if you've got a full set. They're probably worth a little something these days. Yeah. But I just thought that was interesting, seeing some high-end stuff go for some pretty big prices still. There's definitely, what I like to see is like that collector mentality for the old stuff that's more rare as compared to like modern variant issues and stuff like that, because those can have like, like hundreds of thousands of copies, and it's like, is it really worth that? I think you need time to know for sure. Haven't talked about Peach yet. That is news that's coming up, folks. I've got news about like Peach. I've got news about some licensed comics. I've got some big news still to come, some really big news. Actually, quite a few pieces of big news. Actually, this next piece is kind of big. Especially for comic book stores, comic book store owners and employees and stuff like that. DC announced a big change. They have a digital comic service like most publishers do, and I believe it's called DC Infinite. They've added a premium tier to that. If you get this premium tier on the DC Infinite plan, you will now get new comics 30 days after they come out on store shelves. Just 1 month. I think it used to be 6 month delay. They've shortened that 6 month delay to 1 month. Certainly increases the overall value, I would say, of having that that digital comic service. I mean, gives you a huge archive, but like most of us are willing to wait like that a single month. I don't think that that's too bad. So so they added that, and of course, by shrinking that window from 6 months to 1 month, now they're competing a little bit more with comic book stores, right? They are. Because most comic book stores, if you go to, will, they'll have the most recent issue, and then you might like flip back, and they might have the next 2 to 3 months still easily available there. So if DC is doing this, well, they had to sort of make good with comic store owners. So what they've done is their comics are now returnable through the end of this year. That's how it used to be for newsstand comics. You could order, say, 30 copies of Avengers number 260, 30 copies, and you ended up selling 22. So you send the other 8 back to the publisher, and you get your money back for them. A lot less risk involved. So DC is willing. Think about like the financial hit they're willing to take there. Like now a store could order 100 copies of Batman, and can theoretically return, I don't know, 80 of them. I'm sure there are stipulations that I'm not privy to, but this is a big change to have the digital comics available that much faster. Marvel Unlimited, says K-Bar, is 2.5 to 3 months now. Okay, so interesting, because they used to be 6 months. So if they shorten theirs to 3, I bet DC was like, okay, we'll shorten ours to 30 days. That's interesting. May this be the return of newsstand editions. So far, they've only announced that it's that way through the end of this year, to I think, give store owners time to get used to this change. They haven't announced that would be their plan going into 2023, but it is a change. I prefer trades and nice hardcover collections. You get the complete story and it looks good on the shelf. I love that too, but I have to admit, I do like having less space taken up. The thing I don't like is, theoretically, they could always just pull a bunch of that content. It's not like I have it permanently. So that's the only thing about digital comics that really makes me nervous. For instance, I know that Amazon recently pulled several of shows, and if you had them downloaded, they just vanished. Even though you paid for them, you don't own them. You might have paid $20 or $25 for a TV show or a movie or something, and if they lose the license to that or something, vanished. I don't have any news today, based Commodore, about Moon Knight. No. There's interesting rumors of mob involvement in comics returnability before the direct market kicked off. I've heard some of those rumors. I've never been able to necessarily confirm it. But anyway, some big changes. But speaking of DC, it was New York Comic Con, and they had a bunch of announcements for Superman, some changes for Superman. That's going to start in January, some of these changes. For instance, Action Comics number 1051 will switch to having 3 stories per issue. I don't know if they mean that they're expanding the page count. I think they are. But anyway, Action Comics will have a main feature on Superman, still written by Philip Kennedy Johnson. I know he's gotten a lot of acclaim lately. This is mysterious, but there will be twin children that I guess Superman had somehow or somewhere. Unless I'm really out of date, I think that that's new. I don't know where they're coming from. Gord, thank you for the super chat. Let's see. Stopping in, thank you so much for mentioning Genki Comics and my Batman Ketamine bootleg this week in your mailbag. You are a prize, good sir. Take care. Gord, thank you so much for sending them in. Happy to always do an unboxing and hopefully give a bit of a signal boost to people like yourselves that are coming up with really cool, unique, innovative comics. And just, I'm always happy to signal boost. I do have a P.O. box. If you guys out there have a comic that you think I should look at, I'll put it in the episode description once it's done. What else? 3 stories, okay? Oh, hold on. Somebody's talking about the kids here. Allison says, oh, wait, I almost missed it. There we go. Allison says they are from War World, I believe. Okay. Are they actually Superman's kids, or are they just superpowered kids? I'm interested to see a new focus on Superman. Okay. Soup says 2 sons on the Superman and Lois TV show, right? And this would be like his second and third kid, because he's always got he's already got John Kent. The twins in Action Comics came from War World, and yes, they are new to Earth. Okay. They did an arc about Kryptonians being prisoners of Mongol. Okay, on War World. I only read some of it. Very serious stuff, but not much fun in it. Okay. Would you review my comic even if it's digital? I wouldn't necessarily review it. No, I don't have that kind of time to review people's comics. What I've done is when people send in a comic, I'm going to sort of summarize it, flip through, talk about what's unique or cool looking about it, and just give a signal boost and put a link in the episode description, because I do a monthly unboxing for stuff like that. I doubt they will be permanently adopted. Oh, okay. Interesting. How's food there? Dude, food in New York can be incredible. There's so many great restaurants. It's, yeah. Base Commodore. I'm working on turning an old 1930s Big Little book into a video with voice acting. Sounds fun. Oh, the twins were gladiators? Interesting, but they're still kids. Okay, so Superman's trying to give them a new life. Got it. Thanks for helping clear that up, folks. I'm not up to date on that. So, okay, so we've got that as the main Superman story. And then there's 2 backup stories starting in number 1051. First, there will be one with young John Kent and Lois and Clark, so going back in time. And that's going to be by Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks. That's a pretty good powerhouse team. And finally, there's going to be a Power Girl story by Leah Williams and Marguerite Savage. Awesome. And then there will be a new Superman series by Joshua Williamson He's the guy writing Dark Crisis these days. Art by Jamal Campbell, co-creator of Naomi. And finally, the Superman Son of Kal-El book is going to be basically relaunched as Adventures of Superman. That was a long-running title. It's coming back. Adventures of Superman, John Kent, continue to be right by. It will be continued to be written by Tom Taylor and new artist Clayton Henry. Yeah, Ed does complain about Dan Jurgens being a jobber. I think he means like as an artist. And Ed has some pretty insightful criticism. So does, Jim. I'm glad Power Girl's back in her original costume. Yeah, John Kent will still be Superman. Absolutely. Is Dan Mora doing concept art or covers for Superman relaunch? Both, but not interiors to my knowledge. Anyway, I lost my train of thought somewhere. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, some new Superman stuff. They're definitely making a big push of sort of a Superman family. But you know what? Some of Superman's most popular days were when he had Supergirl and Superboy and Krypto and so on. So yeah. Let's see. Isn't Dan Mora doing concept offer? What? Didn't I just answer that one? Just popped up again. Anyway. Yeah. JoJo is pointing out, like, the Cartoonist Kayfabe guys reviewed at one point the Death of Superman issue, the one where he actually dies, drawn by Dan Jurgens with a lot of splash pages. And they do have some honestly good insights there on ways that the composition could have been a lot better. I think that would be the one thing that he could have done better. But I think as a writer, he's pretty darn good. Oh, look at this. Easterly Art says, saw Jim and Ed at CXC this weekend. Great event for comics and highly recommend checking out the Billy Ireland. Oh, yeah, that's like a gallery or something. Magic K here with a super chat explaining these twins. Twins are from Warworld. Mongol kidnapped entire Philosian close to Krypton, and they happened to be parentless. Superman takes them in after that storyline. That's Action Comics 1035 to 1046 plus a special. Thank you for clearing that up for us. That's very nice of you. That's very nice of you. I've never gotten into Superman. Any good starting points y'all recommend? Oh, man, Superman has a lot of great stories. Yeah, okay, starting point, read All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. 12-issue, complete story, tells you everything you need to know that's great about Superman. But there's so many great Superman stories out there. Whatever happened to the Man from Tomorrow? What Do You Get for the Man Who Has Everything? Both by Alan Moore. Really good Superman stories. What else is really good Superman? I did like that era in the year or two leading up to Death of Superman. I don't know what to say though for like a specific story arc also. Yeah, that's true. The John Byrne run is interesting. Andrew Jefferson liked Jeff Johns' Action Comics run. Thank you, Dr. Schubill, for backing me up there. What are my thoughts on Ezra Miller returning for the Flash reshoots? I'm not surprised at all. Like, Warner Brothers has never shown any hint that they want to not do the Flash. So, it's going forward whether we want it or not. Yeah, I agree, Makoto. Oh, wait, I thought that you said Alan Moore has written the best Superman stories, but I didn't read it carefully. Alan Moore's Supreme is the greatest Superman story. Okay. I agree with you here, though. I Red Sun, that's a really cool book. All-Star Superman literally saved my life, so I will always collect Superman. Glad to see you survived the con. So far, so good. Feeling good. So I hope I avoided any sickness. Yeah, there's a more recent one. Jamil Frost points out Superman smashes the Klan. Originally, of course, a radio drama, but updated to a comic about 2 years ago. It's really good. Alan Moore Supreme is a great story indeed. I didn't read that one, I have to admit. That's interesting. Supreme is one of my top 5 comics of all time. Huh. Oh, it's a pure love letter to 50s and 60s Superman? 50s, 60s Superman, it's hard for me to like recommend a specific story because there weren't story arcs. It was pretty goofy and sci-fi, but it was definitely a lot of fun. And you got guys like Kurt Swan drawing Superman. He's great. So, yeah. Take care, Tim. Thanks for dropping in. I've been enjoying Space Age. That's recent, and I don't know how it ends yet. You know, we're 2 issues in, but it is very good. That's our Superman segment. Enough Superman. We're done with Superman. Anybody else mention Superman? I'm gonna come through this screen and beat you up. No, I'm just kidding. We'll talk about some Marvel stuff though. We talked about DC stuff. That was at all announced at what do you call it? That was all announced at one of their panels at New York Comic Con. Marvel did have a panel. They laid out their big events for the coming months. I'll mention those in brief. They also explained this was interesting. They explained at the convention that their goal is to stay 10 years ahead of the movies, that they're creating the stories that they think that the movies will be adapting in 10 years. And I'm like, y'all ain't 10 years ahead, because like Gore the God Butcher was like 4 or 5 years ago, for instance, at most. Civil War was pretty new when they made that. I don't think it was 10 years old. And that's fine. I'm just saying that they do take from they do a mix anytime in the past, but they take some pretty modern stuff too. So what else? Okay, so here are some of the big events coming up for Marvel. First up is Jason Aaron is ending his 5-year Avengers run with Avengers Assemble, and that's going to pit the team against a multiverse of enemies. Now that comes out in November. Then in December, we've got Dark Web. This is kind of a funny premise, I have to admit. Guess it was 10 years then. According to Andrew Jefferson, Civil War came out in 06 and 07, and the movie was 2016. Maybe they are 10 years ahead. Maybe they are. Dark Web. That's going to feature 2 angry clones teaming up. Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen, Ben Reilly, who I thought was back to being alive and being a good guy, but apparently he's a bad guy again, or something called Chasm. They're going to team up, though. Ben Reilly and Madeline Pryor are going to team up to get revenge on both the X-Men and Spider-Man. I don't know why they need to team up, but whatever. They're both clones that have been screwed over. So, okay. That's December. January, Mr. Sinister is going to get back to plotting evil crap in Sins of Sinister. Guess they ran out of new X-Men villains. Then in the spring, Marvel's going to do an espionage thriller with Captain America Cold War. That's going to cross over both the Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson titles. And then also in the summer, that's spring, I guess. Cold War is spring. In the summer, there's going to be 2 events. Summer of Symbiotes and Fall of X. The end of Krakoa is going to be the Fall of X, and Summer of Symbiotes, we can pretty much guess. Lots more Carnage and Venom stuff. Crazy, huh? Yeah, I don't disagree with you here, Cthulhuzer. Madeline Pryor 100% does revenge. Madeline Pryor. That was an editorial mistake, not a writer's mistake, in my opinion. Chris Claremont was ready to give Cyclops a happy ending. He'd grown up. He was done. He couldn't marry Jean Grey because she was dead. He met somebody that reminded him of her, and he married her and had a kid. They lived happily ever after. And then the editors were like, you know what? We're going to bring back the original 5 X-Men. We're going to make a book called X Factor. Jean Grey's dead. And, Cyclops is retired and happily married and stuff like that. Doesn't matter. We're going to bring him back. Chris Claremont. You can write it or we'll get somebody else, but we're bringing it back. Chris Claremont's like, Jesus, if you're going to make this happen, I'm going to do the best with what I can. I care about these characters. I want to, but he had Cyclops abandon his wife with the new baby. That's not very heroic. That was the start of some stuff that ruined Cyclops a little bit. And X Factor itself, once they got together, was a pretty darn fun book, I have to say. It was. Apocalypse, Archangel, artwork by Walt Simonson. For a while, that was really cool. But it was kind of crappy what Cyclops did. And he kind of just lucked out with his kid getting taken into the future and becoming Cable, But Madeline Pryor, yeah, she kind of does, she's like, you know what? We were married and you abandoned me. Yeah, she has every right to be mad at Cyclops. Is X Factor good overall? It is. You have to get past the fact that, it was dictated that it had to happen, and the actual stories are pretty darn good. It really is for quite a while. But it was a mistake, probably. Or they should have found a way to give Claremont maybe a year to find a way to more gracefully separate Cyclops and Madeline Pryor instead of hey, Jean Grey's back to life. See ya. That's what happened. It was tough. So anyway, kind of weird. We need a instead of Summer of Symbiotes, Mandela Butterfly proposes we need a spring of things where Thing and Man-Thing go on an adventure. We've got to have other things in the Marvel Universe, don't we? Are there any other things? Man-Thing and Thing. So there's Swamp Thing over at DC, and there's The Thing, but the John Carpenter movie. But yeah, I feel like there should be more things in the Marvel Universe. Yeah, they should meet Swamp Thing in a major crossover. Summer of Things. Summer of just things. There's no plot, just things happen. Here's some comic book miscellanea, okay? Comic book? No, Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. Stuff that I couldn't quite fit in anywhere else. Here's a quick sad one that I want to just acknowledge. There's a cosplayer named Mitch Drucker, who's pretty well known in the cosplay community. And unfortunately, he passed away at the convention. He had a seizure and a heart attack, and it took paramedics 20 minutes to get to him, and he was gone by then. So that was sad. Respect to Mitch Drucker, and my respect to the cosplay community. I'm sorry that you lost somebody. That's not fair. In very different news, also at the Comic-Con, if you went to Comic-Con, maybe you got this comic. If you walked around New York, you definitely saw ads for this comic. Marvel teamed up with DoorDash to make a comic called The Dashers. And it's all about these 4 people that are really, really empowered by becoming DoorDashers. One guy is doing it so that he can pay for his graduate college books. And one is a single mom that's doing it to pay the bills. And one's just doing it because he's a retiree and wants something cool and exciting to do in life. And everybody's doing a DoorDash to become empowered and super heroic and stuff like that. Are the Dashers going to be the new Combo Man? Basically. Anytime a publisher does a branded agreement, it's awkward. It just always is. It never comes across as very authentic. Like the Justice League of America, we're teaming up with who's the guy that was the Subway spokesman? Jared. there's a comic where they team up with Jared and stuff like that. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I think the biggest news to come out of New York Comic Con, and technically some of this is a rumor, but I'll start with facts. By far, I don't think anyone could argue that anyone was more popular at Comic Con than Peach Momoko. Peach Momoko's line in Artist Alley wound from like one end of a very long convention center to the end and started to curve, at least on Saturday. Ridiculously popular. For like $10, she was doing remarks, like a little head sketch with things. But her line was just humongous. And you've got like huge artists there too. Like, for instance, they were prepared for the popularity of Jim Lee, okay? Because Jim Lee, they had like tucked in a back corner, and they had like what would you even call them when you've got like the poles and those like sort of like fabric gates that you can like set up. Anyway, like there was like a winding road so that like all the fans could sort of fit in a smaller area. Her line was insane. Yeah, look at this. Poor Peach, she was posting apologies on Facebook about the whole thing. Her line was crazy. I heard a dude went into crazy fanboy mode when he reached her. Supposedly, she didn't have a few of them were not good experiences. And she felt guilty that like so many people wanted to meet her and that she wasn't necessarily going to be able to sign for everybody. It was wild. It was wild how popular she was. And look, she's a super popular artist right now. On top of that, she's from Japan. She hasn't been here in years. She's not going to come very often, is she? So fans know that. It was wild. The rumor that I've heard is that she was pretty overwhelmed by the experience, a little shaken by some of the interactions, and that she doesn't really have any interest in coming back to the U.S. for a signing anytime soon after this weekend. And by weekend, I mean like 4 days. 4 days of just like signing. It was too much. It wasn't what the convention or Peach were led to expect. Andrew Jefferson with this point. I read that there was a 10 signature limit, but people were hopping back into line to get multiple stacks signed. That's probably true because, of course, her stuff is very popular. She does variant covers and stuff. It's very popular in the secondary market. Peach seems like a wonderful person from everything I've heard from other professionals. I've talked to Zach Davison, for instance. He co-writes the Demon Days stuff with her, and he has nothing but nice things to say about her. I think that like you become this popular when you're talented, when you're nice, and when you're on time. And it seems like Peach hits all those things. It was just really, really tough for her, I guess, is what I'm hearing. I haven't heard that from her, that she said that it was tough, but that's what I'm hearing, that it was pretty overwhelming. I don't think she's gone out much in Japan either. It's just a couple of comic book stores here at Crossover, such as Crossover in Osaka. Oh, I get it. I didn't know that you were in Japan, Makoto, but thank you for explaining that. That's nice of you, Evan. Yeah, if you get a chance to just hit like on this stream, that definitely helps me. Anyway, I hope, Peach, that it doesn't necessarily shake you from the doing future signings. I think that what's important at this point is, if somebody's this popular, there just has to be preparations for space. They probably would need to move her more over to that side of the convention where all of the big celebrities are, because they have really big lines and stuff like that. And possibly, like charge more for a signature, which isn't fun, but you got to do something to like get that audience like that, or that crowd down, because otherwise it's just, it interferes with other people and it impacts everybody's enjoyment. It's not fun to pay $10 or $30 for a signature, but it is sometimes a necessary evil in terms of keeping lines manageable. It really is. Diana has a great point here. She needs to be able to feel comfortable and safe no matter what. Exactly. She's doing us a favor. She doesn't no artist owes us their time or a sketch or anything. They're creating a story, and they're giving that to us, and we can love that story. But beyond that, they don't necessarily. It's good marketing sometimes to have an interaction with your readers and stuff. But you don't owe anybody that, and you certainly don't if it starts getting unsafe. And I would say that how long was the line for Jim Lee? Well, it was big, is all I can say. I couldn't quite compare it. I couldn't compare it. Let's just say that I've been to a bunch of comic conventions, right? And sometimes there will be massive lines for certain people. Todd McFarlane gets a big line. Robert Kirkman gets a huge line. And usually they'll have a convention employee cap the line at a certain time. They'll stand at the back with a sign saying this is the end of the line. And they didn't do that for this, which is apparently what they need to do. So hopefully future conventions can promise some of those steps and make sure that there's a convention representative there, and that if anything awkward or uncomfortable happens, that fan gets escorted outside. Cheeser says the longest lines of the con were Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, and I think by far Peach. I think you could add, personally, I think you could put Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane's together, and they don't get as big as Peach's. Good for her. I love it. I love that, the most popular person in comics right now is a nice Asian lady from Japan, because it shows that there's so many different kinds of creators right now, creating so many different kinds of books. Thank you, Allison. Nice to have you here. Her hand must be sore. You're not kidding, Mandela. Try to think of that. What? The convention is something like 10 to 8. And if you're doing even 2/3 of that for 4 days, it's that's just... All right, Andrew Jefferson, thank you for following up by checking on Peach's social media. I should have done a little more of that, but I appreciate you helping me out tonight. On Facebook, Peach says she still plans to do more shows and won't start charging for signatures. Then it's her choice. I just had heard from some other pros that she was not necessarily having a great time, but if she says that she's willing to do it, she's making a lot of people happy. She's making a lot of people happy. See, that's interesting. K-Bar says, I don't get the appeal of her art personally, but very upsetting to hear how she got treated. Really is a bad reflection on the comic book fandom. I don't think it was all bad, just to be clear. It's just that it was so many people that the law of averages dictate there's going to be some tough stuff there. Yeah, I saw that there was some big lines for Daniel Warren Johnson, Ryan Brown, Sanford Green. You're right, Rabbit 11. There was also, just to be clear, another set of people that there was big line for was Scott Snyder. And so, yeah, that was really, really big. Isn't Superman gay now? He's bi. John Kent is definitely bi. She should take care of herself. She should. She should. Anyway, let's move on. We've got more news. I've got 2 more pieces of news. One is just sort of fun, and then I've got some big rumors. We'll see if they're true, but I'm hearing it. David, thank you. David from Scotland here. It was a nice surprise to bump into you and your wife at Forbidden Planet today. Likewise, thank you very much for introducing yourself. It was really pleasant to meet you as well. I hope you're having a good trip here. And yeah, it was great meeting you. Hope you and your family are having a good time here in New York. So this is the worlds of manga and Marvel mashing up. Marvel. I knew you'd like that one. Um, yeah, Viz Media obviously produces or brings over a lot of manga for the English audience, and they announced they're going to do a Marvel anthology in the summer of 2023. Yeah, all sorts of different Marvel characters, and they're going to use a lot of famous manga artists. They said they've got at least 20, and they announced a few of them initially, not all 20. We've got One Punch Man illustrator Yusuke Tabata, Witch Hat Atelier series creator Kamome Shirahama, also Sana Takeda, who does Monstrous famously here. Oh, look at that. That's interesting timing. Speaking of Japanese artists, thoughts on Sana Takeda? She's brilliant. I would love to talk about Monstrous at some point. She's great. But yeah, I think that'll be fun. I love seeing stuff reinterpreted through a different lens. Lucky for Viz that they can do this, because obviously, like, Marvel's doing it directly with Peach. Peach Momoko is doing the Demon Days reimagining of various characters as Oni and stuff like that. Like, very like putting a Japanese mythology into Marvel. So Marvel could be doing this themselves, but Viz is arranging it. Let's see. Oh yeah, sure. The Deadpool manga. Dr. Shubo reads that. Yep. I want a world where the Japanese Spider-Man was so popular we get an entire Avengers Sentai. Oh, that would be fun. There was a Spider-Man manga made in Japan, and Marvel started to import it here. They put it into color and put it in like sort of floppy format, but they didn't put all the issues out. So yeah, this isn't that random. Thoughts on Norm Brayfogle? Ever thought about doing a Tropes episode on him? I've thought about that for a long time, because Norm was doing Batman relatively early on for me in terms of my getting introduced to Batman. I like Norm's style a lot. Lots of really angular shapes. Really, really cool. Yeah, this is something I reported on last week's episode, but yes, Hunter is confirmed to return. But I talked about that a lot last week, and I always go back, by the way, and put chapters into these things. So if you just like wait a day or so, might be a little longer because I'm traveling tomorrow, but like I always put chapters in so that you can jump to the reviews or news segment that you're interested in. Here's the last news. We learned back towards the beginning of this year that at the end of this year, IDW was losing the license to G.I. Joe and Transformers. They'd held the license for both for a long, long time. And by all accounts, I think fans liked it. But Hasbro wanted to do something bigger and, like get some eyeballs on it. And I had heard a rumor early on that maybe they were going over to Skybound, Robert Kirkman's company. How do I phrase this? I can't confirm that is happening, okay? I can't confirm that. But I did overhear things, and I won't name any names, but I overheard things that seem to strongly imply that is definitely the case, and that in 2023, it will be Skybound at Image Comics that will be publishing both Transformers and G.I. Joe, both of them. Will it like continue the existing continuity? Will it start fresh? Again, more detail than I would be privy to. I'd be willing to bet though that both will be getting a fresh take. I would be willing to bet that both will be getting big creative teams with a fresh take. But Larry Hama did mention, and it might not be anything, but he did mention at one point that he had scripted past issue 300, which is the final issue, at IDW. He had mentioned that he had scripted like 301 and 302, but he may have been saying that in the context of he went up that far until he learned that it was going to be ending at 300. I don't know that, but yeah. I wish bring back EJ Sue. He's great. Personally, I think that they should start fresh for both Transformers and G.I. Joe. I think that that's going to be the easiest way to now appeal to new people. But I think that some of the talent that has worked on these things they should consider bringing in. I think that EJ Sue on Transformers would be a fantastic idea. I think that having a new G.I. Joe is the smartest idea, but hopefully also continue Larry Hama's continuity. I love that. That to me is what G.I. Joe is. But I know that for the brand to survive, you definitely need new people. Diana Davis has something to say. She would know a little bit about this because she helps with the continuity on G.I. Joe. She says, I'll clarify. He hadn't scripted before he knew he was continuing with the book. Okay. He hadn't scripted before he knew he was continuing the book. Well, all I can say is, if you know Robert Kirkman, if this news is accurate, he is a humongous Transformers fan. Humongous. I know he collects the original art for like the box art for Transformers. Not like the original packaging. I'm talking he gets some of, I'm pretty sure that he has some of the original art. And I think he at least sincerely respects Larry Hama and what he does. Diana helping us out here. 301 wasn't written before the license's end was announced. All right. Wow. I'll read G.I. Joe no matter where it lands. Nice. So that means Larry Hama is. Someone help me connect the dots. You're not hearing an official confirmation because the only people that can give that official confirmation are the creators and the publishers, okay? I have nobody that I can source that I heard some of these things from, overheard some of these things from. It sounds to me like the rumor that we'd always heard from the beginning is true. What I heard leads me to believe that that absolutely is true. And what I'm hearing now leads me to believe that Larry Hama will get to continue his G.I. Joe. I really hope so. I really hope so. And I think I should leave it there because anything else, it is speculation, just to be 100% clear as far as I can go. But I'm not a journalist, so I don't feel like I have the obligation to run this story down and confide with sources and things like that. I'm just reporting on, I'm calling this a rumor officially. Just to be clear, I'm officially calling it a rumor. And I know Robert, but I didn't reach out to him to confirm this with him. I didn't want to put him in that position, okay? I don't want to put him in that position of it's not time to announce this yet. I don't want to talk to you, Chris, to say yes or no. So I don't want to put him in that position because he's a friend. So, I've got Larry Hama's phone number, but I'm not going to call him up and try to do that to these people. I don't consider that my place. This show is more just talking about the news and riffing on it. But from the things I overheard, this rumor seems to be pretty confirmed. So take that how you will. I would not take it with a grain of salt. I would just take it as hey, interesting thing that Chris just pointed out. Until I hear differently, I will believe Chris. That's how I would take it. Hopefully that makes sense. And boy, did I do a good job covering my ass with that one. I've amused my wife. My mission is accomplished. I would love to read some fresh takes on both Transformers and G.I. Joe. Yeah. Yep. Diana is backing this up The new publisher won't be announced before 300 is out, I imagine. Rumors are rumors. And I think that like makes sense because it's not fair to IDW to announce this stuff too soon. It's not. Don't be surprised if there's a gap between things like Last Bot Standing and G.I. Joe 300 coming out and whatever the new version is. We do know that like it's coming out by somebody. We know that it's coming out in 2023. If what I'm hearing is true, I'm very happy with where it's ending up because I think it's going to somebody that legit cares about those properties and that era of storytelling and stuff like that. Yeah. Let's see. Here's a different type of question. Are you doing an extra special Halloweener show this year? Oh, right. Halloween is probably on a Monday, I think. Yeah, probably. And I'll probably do a live stream on Halloween night. Yeah, probably will. Until I hear differently, I always believe Chris. Mrs. Tropes is a trooper. She's amused. Did I cosplay at the con? No. At the last minute, quite the last minute, as I got closer, I realized I didn't have everything I would need for a Paste Pot Pete costume, though it is in the works. And so don't be surprised if on an episode, maybe closer to Halloween, if I did one of these as Paste Pot Pete. Yes, I'm putting together a Paste Pot Pete costume, but at the last minute, again, not quite the last minute, but as it got closer, I just sort of realized I didn't really want to walk around the convention in a really hot costume. And also, I was like, if anybody was looking for me, they'd be way less likely to notice me if I went in cosplay, which is fine, but I just decided I wouldn't towards the last minute. But I am close to having a Paste Pot Pete costume, so I still sort of want to do that. I think that would be funny. No Paste Pot Pete. Can't wait for that Paste Pot Pete. But Chris, even Paste Pot Pete didn't have everything he needed for a Paste Pot Pete costume. Did he or did he not? I don't know. Let's see. McFarlane and Lee were ticketed events run by the con and pre-sold. Peach was just up in Artist Alley and one signing at Midtown. So the only way to get access was to line up. Yeah, I think that Peach, I know you're watching this show, having Zach translate it in real time to you. I would strongly recommend that you are at a stage where you should also consider pre-ticketing. Something like that. For your own health and welfare. I think that would be fair, and that's just how things have to be when somebody's really popular. You could do a Swamp Thing Alan Moore episode for Halloween. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. You've had some really awful ideas over the years, Joe. Boy, some real stinkers. That one, not so much. Just giving you a hard time. David from the beautiful shores of Scotland says, at New York Comic Con, I was very happy to get signatures from Art Adams, Peter David, Terry Dodson, and Kevin McGuire. I think you can tell my vintage from those names. They were all friendly too. Those are great. I got most of them on video for like the video that I'm making. I saw Jim Shooter at the con, one of the most interesting editors in the history of comics. I heard a story about Jim Shooter at the convention. I'm going to pass it on. I think Jim Shooter did a lot of great things for Marvel. I don't think he was perfect, just to be clear. And you probably know that if you've watched my episodes. I do have some criticism for him, but more in terms of how he's allegedly, I don't know anything, but allegedly how he treated some people. But I think that also, just to be clear, to be a successful editor-in-chief, it sounds like sometimes you kind of need to be the asshole, that's the role. But I'd heard that he was, but who knows? Well, a viewer came up to me and he said, boy, Jim Shooter's kind of mean. I said, what? Like, what? He's like, well, just before I came to see you, I was in line to get a signature by Jim Shooter. And I asked him, what can you tell me about the Avengers Justice League of America project that never quite came together back in the day? And he told me to like screw off, Pipsqueak, or something along those lines. Like he called him a name and told him to get lost. And I was like, wow. I was like, did you really like ask it like that? He's like, yeah, I just wanted to know some more of the story. He got mad at me. I was like, okay, I don't know. That's what I was told. Diana's got the look, bottom line, he did get the books out on time. And just to be clear, that's something Marvel was terrible at before Jim Shooter came in. And that is a quick way to go out of business. If you just have to keep putting out like, filler issues, or you're just not putting out Spider-Man and X-Men and stuff like that on time, that's how you go out of business. So don't get me wrong. Like, I think that Jim Shooter did a lot of great for Marvel Comics in his tenure. I just think he also annoyed a lot of creators, and who knows, maybe they needed tougher skin, or maybe he needed to be nicer. I don't know. I wasn't there. I think he did some great stuff, but I think he also, he clearly annoyed a lot of people. But you know what? What's he got to lose right now? He can call people names. He doesn't work for a publisher anymore. He's like, yeah. He got shootered down. Yeah, alienated a lot of people. Exactly. I think that I've heard that Joe Quesada is pretty tough as an editor-in-chief. I've heard that is a rumor. But I think he also hasn't burned every bridge. So he can easily jump over to DC right now and do some Batman stuff and do whatever he wants because he's got a lot of people that like him. Wasn't he around for that Avengers comic? Yes. He's one of the many co-writers of Avengers 200, which I review on my Comic Tropes channel. It's pretty bad. They did not treat Carol Danvers well. Yeah. Anyway, biggest name you see at a small con? Depends on the time you go. For instance, I used to go to the Small Press Expo, SPX, in Bethesda, Maryland, when I lived in DC. Loved that. And I would see creators like Frank Miller, Paul Pope, who's the guy that created Scott Pilgrim. All of a sudden, I'm bad at names, so all of a sudden that one's eluding me. Brian, I don't know what it's somebody out there will say it. O'Brien, yeah, I don't know, the guy that created that. Harvey Pekar. Some really big names can be at small press conventions sometimes. You saw the Pope at a comic convention? I saw Paul Pope. Close. Thank you. I was coming around to it. Rabbit 11 was the first one to tell me. Brian Lee O'Malley. Love Brian Lee O'Malley. It was great meeting him. Oh, wow. I used to see Russ Heath yearly at a tiny con in a strip mall in Northridge. Russ Heath, so underrated. Great artist. Yeah. I made a brief episode about him on Comic Tropes back in the day when he passed away, because I don't think enough people know about how cool Russ Heath was. Did some great war comics, basically, and also was working up towards the end, doing a lot of character designs for the G.I. Joe animated show. So, yeah. Chris Pitzer talked about Paul Pope during his Ad House panel. Nice. This I don't know about, Makoto. Didn't Jim Shooter hate Gene Colan for not using 6-panel grids or at least some grid structure? I don't know anything about that one. Jeannie, I don't know what you're talking about. Sally O'Malley. You take that Sally O'Malley and throw it down the drain. Russ gave me a series of the images he took of himself for reference. Interesting. He could draw a tank like nobody, by the way. He could just draw a tank like better than anybody in my book. But anyway, I think that's all the news that I've got. And I told you kind of the experience I had at the Comic-Con. I took a lot of video footage. Haven't really been able to do much in terms of editing it yet. But when I get home, in between making the next Comic Tropes episode, I will edit together that walkthrough so that, if you didn't get to go, get a chance to see what New York Comic Con is like. I ask in the thumbnail, are comic conventions back to normal? No, not exactly. They're getting bigger, that's for sure. Are they back to where they used to be? No. They'll fill themselves up with a lot of things. They'll be full, but it's like stuff that's further down the list that you don't see as much when the conventions are really healthy. And by that, I mean like artists that make like prints, but are not, working professionals in the industry. They just, fan art essentially, which is fine. Some of it can be good. You'll see a few more self-published people. You'll see a lot of somewhat related merchandise like backpacks and fudge. New York Comic Con, backpacks and fudge. But anyway, let's say Russ Heath did a great one-page comic dealing with his thoughts on Liechtenstein using his work, worth checking out. Yes, he did. And that was with him talking about, I believe, the Hero Initiative. I'm pretty sure, which is a great nonprofit charity that helps out professionals who have fallen on hard financial times, need money for their bills, their rent, their medical stuff. It actually is a charity that I support in my free time. I don't always talk about like, oh, this is where I donate money, but I actually do donate money to the Hero Initiative. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering right, that was the page that Russ did was talking about how the Hero Initiative helped him, which is nice. Let's see. David Irons, good on you, Chris. I enjoyed listening to the gossip, not gossip. Cheers from New Zealand. Cheers. Thank you. Will you go next year? Will you do anything different? I definitely hope to go next year. The only year we really didn't go was last year. Chrissy and I did have tickets, but at the last minute, we just didn't really feel like getting on a plane and traveling to the convention because of where things were health-wise across the nation. But I don't see any reason why I wouldn't next year, because I love getting to see my friend Evan. He was my roommate in college, super close friend. Wish I could see him all the time. Always have a great time. So, and fortunately, he likes comics, so it's usually an excuse for us to do something together, not just hang out and eat and talk, but like actually do something together. So yeah, I think I'll be coming next year. Yeah. And I've never done San Diego, so maybe I'll do San Diego soon. That should be good. Russ Heath told fabulously naughty jokes. But he always asked me if it was okay first. But okay. I like hearing that. Interesting question here from Christoph. Do you have any advice for people graduating from college and heading into the professional world? Yeah. Try to get something in your field, of course, but it's also important to just start working as soon as possible, no matter what it is. Just be working. It looks better on a resume if you just are working than if you're sort of waiting a couple months for like the perfect one in your field. It's better that way, I think. And it's better for you mental health wise usually, and bills wise. Yeah, don't be afraid to start somewhere new, just like you did for college. You should watch my comics failure video, potentially. That's nice of you to say. Let's see. Jamilin says, I'll take self-published comics and local artists over booths selling pops or promoting non-comics any day. I will too. Because there's passion there. And there's a good chance there might be a good story. Nothing to throw Funko Pops under the bus, but you can get Funko Pops everywhere. And my God, you know what there was a lot of at this year's comic convention that I don't really think I got much in terms of video? Oh my God, there were so many booths that sold nothing but mystery boxes. You know, you pay $100. Who knows? It's a mystery. But you just know that all you're going to get in there is wholesale merchandise that you could get at Five Below for $25. You know, it's just what it is. It's just what it is. Oh, there were so many mystery boxes. Randy Stone is here. I still don't think that was a failure. Definitely a learning experience. Fair enough. Look, sometimes I use things to goose the algorithm with a title. Failure makes people pay attention. So is it a failure? Some ways. Did I learn something from it? Definitely. That's what I was trying to show. By the way, Randy does currently have a Kickstarter going. Randy's a good friend of mine. He has done Kickstarters for his comics before. He has always fulfilled them quickly. Great comics. He's doing one right now on Kickstarter. It's called Bullet Adventures. And Bullet Adventures is about a golden age sort of superhero as an older man, reminiscing about some of his previous cool adventures. Randy always hires some top-notch talent. He sells original art if he needs to, like as in like rare art that he's bought from great artists. I know, Randy, who did you just sold some more original art, I know, to pay some of your artists. Who did you sell this time? Because I just think that that's so admirable that you're willing to do that to get your comics out there. I really do. It's what a sacrifice. Shameless plug. If you're self-publishing, consider printing with Comics Wellspring. Yeah, I've never heard of them, I have to admit, but fair enough. Did they have NFT booths? Not specifically just NFTs, but some companies, some publishers are doing NFT projects. I believe Whatnot is doing some, but they're doing a bunch of different things, like variant covers and stuff like that. Thanks, Chris. Fingers crossed for this one. I supported it for whatever it's worth. I think your comics are legit really, really good, Randy. I hope some people look it up. If you're looking it up on Kickstarter, you could always just put in Altruist Comics. Randy does them under Altruist Comics. And here's what he sold. He sold 2 pages by Jim Chung, John Dell, Young Avengers. That's what Randy sold to pay his talent to get this book out. I think that that's impressive, guys. I really do. I think that that shows his commitment to not just finishing a project, but making sure that the people that he works with and collaborates with get paid a fair wage. So those are the kind of people I want to support, to produce good comics and treat others well. But anyway, they'll probably abandon the NFT stuff before long. I also get the sense that that's short term. My battery is dying, forcing my silence. Diana, I'm about to wrap up anyway. I was just taking last questions and last comments. You guys were great. Thanks for letting me do a hotel edition of the show. I had a great time. Thank you to the dozens and dozens of viewers who introduced themselves to me. Made me feel really good about myself. Thank you to all the professionals that took time to do a conversation. Kyle Higgins, Daniel Warren Johnson, Donnie Cates, Ryan Otley, Tom King, Jim Mahfood. Who else did I talk to? I don't want to forget people now that I've started listing people that I talked to. Thank you for the super chat. Michael, your stream tonight, great as always. Love from Massachusetts. Hey, that's where I'm from too, man. How did I enjoy East Coast time? It's a little tough to adjust when you go east. It's easier when you go back west, to be honest. It is. But thanks, everybody. I had a great show. You get the devil salute that I love giving you. Boom, boom. You earned it. You earned it. Only I give the devil salute, at least that way. So some people do one with like, ooh, no, not me. I like you guys. We'll have another good show next week. Desperately trying to get my next Comic Tropes episode out on time. Couldn't get one this last weekend. Again, my cat died and I traveled and work was busy. That was tough. That was a lot. I couldn't do it. But I think I've got a good one coming up for you next. Thank you, Andy. See you next year. I hope so. I will keep that in mind for doing some sort of a thing, a meet and greet. Have a good one. Yes. Bye. See ya. Sorry I missed this. We'll catch up later. Thank you. Good night to a great community. You guys make this how you treat each other. I appreciate that. See ya, Amen. Thanks for stopping in. Miss you, Lil Bean. Thank you, Avoida. Thank you. Erwin Papa. Thanks, Chris. All right, that's it then. Peace and love. Peace and love. We're out.